Hello, hosts and travelers. Welcome to the podcast Hosting Your Home. Each week, around the world, millions of guests stay in other people's homes using the Airbnb platform. Debbie Herder looks for stories that come from these connections. Listen in as we hear stories that teach us the human side of hosting your home.
Hi, this is Debbie of Hosting Your Home, the podcast. Thanks for being here yet again. Today's interview is with Kati and Brian Greene, that's Greene with an E, of Overlooked to Overbooked. First, I apologize for the audio in this interview. We were at a busy hotel in San Antonio at the VRSS conference. There was a lot going on, and in fact, I put my recorder on pause and we moved because there was so much noise that was echoing around the room. We went to a different room and tried it again, and I'm not sure it was any better. So I apologize. I hope that you can tune out that ambient noise and appreciate our conversation. I first heard of Overbooked to Overlooked when I got an email from Brian asking me if he could interview me for this book that he was writing. And it turns out that the Vacation Rental Jumpstart, which is available now on their website, is a series of interviews with people who are thought leaders, or at least Brian and Kati considered thought leaders in this industry. I was very flattered to be a part of that, and it was a fun interview. So catching up with them in San Antonio, I felt like I already knew them. Overlooked to Overbooked is about photography. Kati is a professional photographer, and Brian is the computer expert behind their website and helps with the composition of all of this. Is a very unique course teaching the layman, which is me, how to take pro pictures with your smartphone. You know, there are so many times when we want to take a quick shot because we've changed the bedding or something is different. The light looks good. I don't know. So that happens all the time to me. And I'm thinking, I need a professional photographer out here again. And I would love to be able to take some of these pictures by myself and have them look good. Anyway, this is a brilliant concept. The course is excellent. And as I'm going through it, I am more and more impressed. Kati talks about lighting and composition and listing sequences, but they also go into how to build your listing story with pictures. It's really, really interesting. So it's not a quick flyby course. It's like I said, it's a deep dive and it'll take some of your time, but it's really well worth it. You're going to come away with a lot of knowledge. Anyway, let's roll into the interview now. Welcome to Hosting Your Home. I'm here in the Westin in San Antonio to welcome Kati and Brian Greene. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having us.
So, we have had a little bit of connection throughout the conference here. We're here for a Vacation Rental Success Summit, and we had some interaction before that, Brian, when you interviewed me for your book that you and Kati just produced. Mm-hmm. And the name of that is?
Vacation Rental Jumpstart.
Vacation Rental Jumpstart, and our listeners can find it
on our regular website, Overlooked to Overbooked.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are the founders of Overlooked to Overbooked.
And the 2 is a number, not the word TO.
Okay, and we will have that link in our show notes as well.
Yeah.
So, my understanding is that you live in New Zealand.
Sometimes
we do, yeah.
Okay, we are talking about a married couple here.
Yes.
So you're a married team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you have English accents, American accents.
We do.
So let's start with where you come from first.
I'm originally born and raised in Finland, and I didn't move abroad until I was an adult in my 20s, and met Brian in London, and then I moved to the States. We lived in Southern California I lived there for almost 10 years, and then we started traveling.
Right. And I want to say that she tricked me with her accent. It was actually an English accent when I met her in London.
Really? Oh, you're a chameleon.
It's true. I had a different accent then.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But in 2014, we became nomads. And so people always ask us, well, where do you guys live? And we say, well, that sounds like a simple question. But basically, we've chosen to have different bases, usually in 3 to 6 months increments. So we really do like New Zealand, but we've also been in Italy and France, and we look for a longer term vacation rental. So especially the ones that give a discount if you're willing to stay a lot longer than the typical stay.
There are a number of us who do that too.
Yeah.
So your experience is on the guest side, is that right?
Yes.
We were calling ourselves super guests before Airbnb made it official thing.
And we've been talking about it for years, you guys. We need to have that. So that we know as hosts, who we really want to have in our homes.
Yeah, the guest perspective, I mean, of course we're a little biased because we're guests, but the guest perspective I think is really important. As hosts, you often get tangled in thinking of how do I make sure people don't steal stuff and they don't make noise, but it's all about the guest experience, and I think sometimes people lose track of that a little bit. So we like to try to pull them back.
Excellent. So, but that is not overlooked to overbooked. What is overlooked to overbooked?
So it's our company, and basically we have a video course that teaches owners how to take better photos of their rentals, even with just a smartphone. That's what it is. And I do photography as well. So if you're not interested in taking a video course, I do vacation rental photography. But that's the product that we have, is the video course to teach owners how to do it themselves.
When every time we would be looking for the next place, I was in charge of research, and so we say we were going to go to Costa Rica, I would look through hundreds of these, and a fairly significant percentage of them, we didn't feel like the photos were good enough for us to make an accurate assessment. So, and we really felt bad. Like it wasn't.
We really did.
It was a combination of frustration, but really it was like, I feel so bad that this was probably a tremendous host that does an amazing job when someone shows up, but we're not going to show up because we can't tell whether it's a good place for us. They either didn't take the right photos or enough of them, or they were blurry, or they were dark, or they were in some weird scrambled order that confused us. And one of my big points is that I feel like that undermines the trust factor. So even if I could get past, like for instance, we know you, and so even if your pictures turned out not to be stellar, we would still come and stay with you because we know that you would provide a great guest experience. But if we don't know you, we have to basically assess your quality as a host on the quality of your photos. And we would come to the conclusion that if you didn't get the photos right, what else might you be missing in your host repertoire?
Right, and sometimes we would book a place, like 1 or 2 continents away from a completely different country, and we're trying to give this person money maybe even for a month. So we really want to make sure that we pick the right place.
Do you read the reviews?
We do read the reviews, and of course we look at the description. We want people to have good descriptions, not just one paragraph. We want them to tell us more. And we like good photo descriptions. Yeah. It all goes together. Yeah, so we do. Yeah.
Great. And your background is in photography. You are a photographer.
My background, I have a degree in graphic design. I worked in Hollywood in a post-production house as an editor and a colorist. And then I started doing photography. So I was already in the kind of visual arts. It's just apparently what's in my blood. And then when we started traveling, I really got into photography.
It's a good segue for you. Yeah, it is, honestly.
Really, because I did spend my days in a dark room fixing other people's photos and their video and, looking at cinematographers' work and doing color correction. And for some reason, that's just what I love to do.
So you hire out your services to do the professional photography when you're on site.
Yeah.
But being in New Zealand and also marketing to the U.S. market, you're not there.
Yeah.
So that's why you've got the web course, right?
Yes.
So I can learn from a layman photography standpoint how to use my smartphone to take good pictures.
Yes, exactly.
Of my property, which is really important because you can't have a professional photographer there all the time.
Right.
And if I change my bedding, or if we just remodeled a bathroom, it's one room out of the entire house, so I need to have this photographer come back and do an update.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
I can take my cell phone and take pictures, That's what I'm going to learn from your course, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we never tell anyone that you shouldn't have a professional photographer. Of course you should,
Yes.
and you could. But it's nice at least to be able to match their work. So when something does change, you change the sofa, you change the curtains, or it's just the perfect sunset, or you have a rainbow, or any of these things.
Yes.
That you know exactly what to do and how to make it look good, and just add it to your listing.
And how do the pictures actually compare with the professional product?
Well, we would argue, we actually have a gallery, and we haven't made it live yet, but we will soon, a kind of a quiz to see whether people can tell the difference between photos taken with professional equipment
Fantastic.
and just a smartphone. And we submit that you can tell the difference. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, higher-end cameras can do some small things better than maybe an older smartphone. But that's completely missing the point. It's really about what you know. It's knowing how to use your tool, your phone, and how to plan ahead. And it's more about the photographer than the tool. It really is.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's our...
And I think that a lot of, it only becomes more true over time because every year the camera phones get better and better.
Yes.
So
Yeah, they are so good now.
When we first started a couple of years ago, we anticipated that there might be some pushback on that. Like people might say, can you really get a good... And so we prepared with a lot of examples. Now, we almost never hear anybody say, can you really get a good... Because people are out there taking great photos with their phones in a lot of circumstances. And we've even found some articles where pro photographers are talking about how they sometimes use their smartphones when they don't have their camera with them. And
Did you see
Yeah.
the group shot the other day?
yeah,
I mean, my
Right.
goodness, he couldn't get... So we've got over 225 people at this conference, and to get everybody in one group shot,
Yeah.
that camera, the professional camera, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So they took a picture with a cell phone. I thought
that
of you
funny?
when I
Yeah.
when I saw that happening.
Well, and funny, perfect example. So Brian's been, of course, exposed to a lot of this stuff through me from watching my videos and
Sure.
listening to me look at listings and ramble on, white balance and straight lines and all that. And in New Zealand, I had to leave a little early, and he stayed there extra to finish photographing some properties for our friends. We sometimes do this where we'll stay in a rental in exchange for taking photos. And and he just used his phone. So I had done a couple of properties with my professional camera and all that. And then Brian went in and just took photos with his smartphone and then sent them to me like, what do you think? Okay, I like that kitchen one. Maybe try this different one. And the owner really couldn't tell the difference between photos I had taken and photos that Brian had taken. And it is a testament to if you just have trained your eye a little bit, your smartphone will be just as good.
Very good.
Yeah.
So tell me about the course that you're offering. How long is it? What kind of, how long would you expect an owner to go through the process?
The videos in the course are about 3 hours total. It's broken into 3 segments.
Okay.
Because I come from production. They're pre-production, production, and post-production.
Awesome.
So it's everything getting prepared, training your eye, figuring out your theme and your target audience. Then it's more about composition and getting to know your phone, all the technical stuff. Then the second part is actually going into a rental, walking with me, looking over my shoulder when I kind of brainstorm through how to photograph a kitchen, what you need to know in a living room and in a bedroom. And the third part is editing and putting together your sequence. So it's how to edit your photos quickly and simply, because I know that's scary for a lot of people, in different tools, some free and some paid. And then maybe one of the most important parts is selecting the photos for your listing and then how to sequence them in a way that makes sense. Because that's one pitfall that people who have professional photos, amazing listing, great rental, and then their photos are in a completely insane order.
Yes.
It's just one of my pet peeves. When you go from a kitchen to the beach to a different angle of the kitchen to a bathroom, and we don't know where that bathroom is and what it belongs to. So it's kind of putting some thought into actually how to sequence your photos. Yeah.
Very good.
So that's the course. And it's broken up into small videos, and the longest one is maybe 10 minutes, but they're usually about 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we don't want to overwhelm anyone with a 45-minute video. Yeah.
And what does it cost?
So the basic photo course alone is $197. And if you want more hand-holding and me to be more involved, we have a second level, which is $397. And there you can do a one-on-one call with me, and you can you can really ask me, here's the kind of rental, what I have, here's where I think my target audience, and we can, like, for example, on Skype, one-on-one, try to think about how to photograph your rental. And we've had some customers who ask me, well, I have this kind of kitchen, I don't know what to do with it. And I will tell them, tell me where your window is, what's on the other side. I would take this kind of photo. And then, as a part of level 2, I will edit 20 photos that you take. And I'll do a little video of kind of what I've done in terms of editing so that you can try it yourself. Because we know a lot of people will want to do the first 2 parts of the course and then they kind of stop at the editing because it is kind of scary. In case you really, really don't want to do that, I can edit your photos for you. Great. But we do require that you do the course first. You go through the other parts of the course. Yeah.
You need to know what you're doing.
You need to know what you're doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And then, of course, the third level is I want to do nothing. Just go fly and take photos and submit them to me later. We can do that too.
Yeah. Now, if somebody wanted to do that, hire you to come in, and you're in Europe or you're in New York, and we're on the West Coast, would that customer need to pay your airfare to get you out there?
Yes. We do think so.
We treat those all as a case-by-case basis. If it happens to be somebody where we want to go, or if they say, oh, we have a week open at this time, and we work out a partial barter thing or something.
Yeah. Or we'll plan ahead enough. We're not going to make someone pay, $5,000 for tickets because they want me to be there next week. I mean, we'll tell them, here's what it would cost you. Let's just plan ahead a little further out. Yeah. And I'll be happy to travel to a lot of interesting places. We have someone in the Faroe Islands who would want photographs. And we have customers all over. I, for some reason, thought we were going to be more North America-centric, maybe because that's where our company is, that's where our website is. We have people in Italy and Vietnam and all over. And they always offer, oh, you could come and stay with us if you want to. And I warn them, we might. We really might. A lot of people say, oh, we'll come see you in Costa Rica. And, of course, they never actually will. No, we'll come to Vietnam. If you offer us your Airbnb, we might go.
Oh, great. That's great.
Yeah.
Very good.
One of the things that I think gets overlooked a lot of times is a lot of people think of their rental as just what's inside the 4 walls. And when we think of one of the great advantages, if you are doing it yourself, that you probably wouldn't be able to get from a pro, is the surrounding area. That you have the luxury of being able to go out and get that restaurant that's down the street or the beach that's a couple miles away. All the things that make your rental a great destination besides just the actual structure itself. And so we talk about including those in the listing sequence too, that it's not just the actual home, it's every reason, it's everything else about why somebody would choose your home as a destination.
Right, and we try to teach people how to emphasize the good parts of your rental. We've stayed in all kinds of places. We've stayed in big $8,000 a week villas in Mexico, and then we've stayed in little 1,000-square-foot cabins in Montana, where maybe the inside isn't as nice, so they maybe have fewer photos of the inside of your rental, and emphasize the outdoors, emphasize the hiking and the lakes and all that stuff that you can do. Whereas with the villa, you can really emphasize your villa and then include some beach photos and some neighborhood photos. Yeah. So it's finding that balance of what your thing is. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now, the book that you wrote, let's talk about that. Can you just give us sort of an overview of what you've done here?
Brian, this is let's just take it to Brian.
Yeah.
So the idea with the book is when we were first thinking about building a course, we actually had a broader idea in mind, which was all the aspects of a rental experience that we thought we might have some good advice on. And then we quickly narrowed to our area of core competence, which was Katie's photography. Mm-hmm. But we kept in mind that we still had something, we thought that it would be great if somebody would address all the different aspects, everything from how to get more bookings to insurance and tools that would automate and all that kind of stuff. So then we kind of morphed that into, well, what if we just went to the best people in all those different areas and kind of compiled them? And it'd be a great way to kind of get to know everybody in the industry quickly as well. So that was, I guess, about a 6-month process where I reached out to tons of people. Didn't get everybody, obviously, and we'll do another version, and hopefully we'll add a bunch more. But we did get 28 if you include us. We put ourselves as one chapter and out of the 28. And you were in it, and it was great. And
I was very flattered. Thank you.
And in the event we were at this weekend, I think 8 or 9 out of the 28 were there. So we got to meet in person a bunch of people who we had just had done Skype interviews
so
with.
you hit a lot of the major resources in this industry.
And we
they
really
were there.
did want to. Yeah, we wanted to get the cream of the crop. So
That's nice. That's nice.
And so in each case, it was like about an hour Skype interview, which we then pared down. Katie did the editing to the point where we could get them transcribed. And then we had to figure out, well, how many pages is a minute? Or, like that kind of thing. We didn't want it to be
so we couldn't be 500 pages. That's insane. Yeah.
Right. So what ended up happening is that each hour ended up translating into about 5 or 6 pages, which is really only about 2 or 3 minutes. So basically it's just like the best 2 or 3 minutes out of an hour conversation. But we have all the recordings, and so now we'll start a podcast where we roll out 1 or 2 a month. And so basically we have all that, there's a lot of stuff that didn't make the cut for the book, but that people might want to, maybe if they read it in the book and they say, I'd like to hear the whole hour of that person.
Yeah, we have great personal stories, and we go sometimes off on these tangents that maybe weren't relevant for the book, but that are interesting. Just hear other people's stories. And the stories behind these companies, how they got started, like Noise Aware with this horrible party that they had no idea was going on, that they could have prevented if they'd had their own tool. And we had a lot of those stories, and they were really interesting. And it was nice to kind of hear the origin stories of the influencers in the industry. And it was really nice, of course, to get to see everyone here in person, kind of shake the hand of the headshot that I've been exposed to.
Let's do some name dropping. Who all did you interview?
Well,
Matt Landau, for example.
Matt Landau,
with his Inner Circle.
And Heather Bear with Vacation Rental Formula and Cottage Blogger and this VRSS, which we're attending right now. There were a lot of tools. So Wheelhouse, the guys that do pricing tools to help you figure out what's the optimal price that you should be setting on your nightly basis.
Andrew McConnell from Rented.com, who presented here.
Good. Yes.
And Matt Curtis from Smart City Policy, who presented here as well. Yep.
And Erica Muller with Rolio, which is kind of going to be like the Zillow for vacation rentals, which I think is a great idea because where would you go if you either wanted to sell your vacation rental or you want to buy one? There's really no obvious place for that.
That's right.
Yeah. Mercedes Brennan, who presented here from One Chic Retreat. And we had a lot of Airbnb experts. I'm not sure if they were here, but Danielle Rustine and Simon
He and Jasper Rivers. Those guys are all
Get Paid for Your Pad and
Learn Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly.
One of
Lodgify.
Sure. So one of the things I wanted to point out about the book is we were careful, and we went with an objective that we wanted to really pepper these guys with questions about advice that they could give to somebody that was just starting out. We were kind of targeting like that first year or two. What kind of rookie mistakes did you make, or what do you wish you had known when you first got started, or what's the top 3 things that you would definitely do if you were starting a vacation rental today? That kind of, because we didn't want it to just be a commercial for each of those companies. They got to talk a little bit about what they do and how they fit into the big picture, but we treated each one as if they were consultants to a hypothetical new owner. And I thought that really worked out well, that we got 2 or 3 really nice tidbits so there's actionable stuff that a reader could take away, even if they never go to any of those websites or look up any of those people for their products. They could get some really good stuff that they can put to practice.
Yeah, we didn't want it to just be a list of companies, otherwise it could just be a PDF of logos. So we really wanted the interviews to be kind of entertaining and useful. Yeah.
And this book you're offering free to subscribers?
We are offering it free to subscribers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So they can find that on
our website. If they go to overlook.com, they'll find it there.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like for our listeners to know about you?
I'm sure there will be when we get into the car later and we think, we should have mentioned this thing, but I can't think of anything now.
Well, I mean, what I would say about the course is it originally we were thinking of it as a substitute, because it turns out surveys show that 70% of people don't really entertain the idea of hiring a photographer, and I'm not sure why that is.
That's a big number.
It's a big number. Yeah.
And I don't know.
How did you get that number?
I think that was from a Learn Airbnb survey where they asked people whether they had used one, whether they were thinking of using one or not, and it was like 15% had used one, 15% were thinking of using one, which
15.
left 15 and 15, and 70% weren't. So I don't know what that is attributable to, whether it's more that they think that they're doing a good enough job, or they don't think it's that critical, or what. But the bottom line is, if there's that many people who aren't going to do it, then they should definitely make the most of what they have available to them. But it really has borne out recently. We've been thinking a lot more about the fact that even if you have a pro come in and do it, it is great to be able to supplement, because so many things can change. The seasons change.
And plus, when you take your own photos, you own your own photos. You can use them anywhere, and you don't need anybody else's permission.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, even if you were doing Airbnb, when they would send in somebody to do them for free, well, you can't take those and put them on anybody else's site if you have multiple listings, or your own personal site.
Right. You can't even download those because they're so small.
That's
if
right.
you
They're
try
low
to download
resolution.
them, they wouldn't. I tried.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a couple of experiences early on where we took the photos, and then the host put in a couple of their own that weren't quite at the same level, and it really pulls the whole thing down. Like it's like it's your weakest link. If you say, oh, there's one really weird one and then a bunch of good ones. So we would love it to be able to bring everybody up to where their personal photos were not distinguishable from whoever took the rest of them.
Sure. Now, they might be smaller because the scope of the camera is smaller, right? You can't use a wide-angle lens on your cell phone.
It's true. You can't quite use a wide-angle lens on your cell phone, but we teach you how to imitate that look, how to make your rooms look bigger and better without a wide-angle lens. And we don't really advocate wide-angle lenses.
Beyond a certain
point, basically, because it distorts the room.
It does.
Like, if you have a nice, cute, small rental, then market a nice, cute, small rental. Don't try to make it seem like the Ritz. So we teach you how to make the most of the room without distorting it to a point where your guests are going to come in and just go, "Oh, it's small."
Yeah.
Well,
So you want to be kind of slightly above realistic, just a little better. Hair better, yeah.
Well, one of the things that really distinguishes real estate photography from vacation rental photography is in real estate, the person who's buying the house is almost always going to have a chance to see the actual house before they would pay their money. Whereas in vacation rental, you're almost always paying the money before you're locked in, before you ever actually get to see the real room. So having it line up is more important. In other words, if you distort the room to a point where the person shows up and says, this is not like what I thought it was going to be, that's more of a problem for a vacation rental, because now they're stuck there. They're going to potentially give you a bad review because you basically oversold the property with the photos. So
the photos can be too good, too expansive, and don't show the reality of the home.
Right. Your guests are going to
Usually it's the other way around. The photos
Usually
are too grainy or too dark, but
yes,
you can go the other way, in the other direction.
Right, and some people get excited. They will get fancy gear. They'll have a wide-angle lens, and they'll do an HDR photo, and it just ends up looking really unrealistic. And the rooms look way bigger than they really are. And we want to try to teach you how to stay true to your rental, how to make it look the way it really looks, and how to make it look the way it feels to stand in there. That's why I always tell people you have to edit your photos. Cameras are just not as good as the human eye. And even Ansel Adams edited a lot of his photos. He really did. So I looked it up because people always think, well, editing is cheating. No. It's just nothing is as good as the human eye. It doesn't look the same. I mean, when you look at the mountains and then you whip out your camera and try to take it, and they just shrink and look. So we're just trying to match the human eye with the editing part of it. But I'm not teaching technically perfect photos. We have some technical stuff there, but it's really all about the emotion. That's why we added a lot of stuff in the beginning about your theme and your target audience and how to appeal to the emotions of the viewers. That's more important.
Yes.
If you don't get the white balance perfect and you don't have perfectly straight lines, it doesn't matter if there's something in the photo like a hammock.
And
it
it might
just
be more
screams vacation.
interesting.
And it is so much more interesting. Exactly. Yeah.
We didn't talk about actually types of phones. I mean, I'm assuming that we're talking about iPhones, but what about the Androids? How can you compensate for the different kinds of smartphones?
You can, anything basically after the iPhone 4.
Yeah.
Even iPhone 4 would be plenty good. Okay. They'll be big enough, the resolution's high enough, and they'll do a good job. All the photos that Brian took for our friend to put on listings were done. What do you have, an LG
V20. It's a year and a half or so.
I have a Samsung 6.
Okay, great.
One version of those. So those are plenty good. It doesn't have to be just an iPhone.
There's a website, I'm not sure, I think it's DX Mark or something like that, where they they do tests, in-depth tests of all the phone cameras and how good they are against each other. And iPhone is usually battling it out with whatever the latest Galaxy is, and maybe one of the Googles, like the Google Pixel or something like that. But the bottom line is, you could do well with anything that scores like above an 80, and there's like at least 100 phones that are above an 80 at this point. So
wonderful.
So
Yeah, I would argue most people are going to have a phone that's good enough.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't know.
Well, I want to just jump on what Katie said is absolutely true, that we originally might have been thinking that was going to be about just the techniques and the technical aspects of how to take the photo just right. But the more we got into it, the more it's like, well, that photo's not perfect, but you don't notice that it's not perfect because it's a great subject and it's taken from a great spot, and they're getting the right things right. It doesn't have to be perfect. It really is more about creating a sense of yearning, where you just look at the photo and you're like, I really want to be there.
That's what we want.
Yeah, and the photos we remember are not the most technically perfect photos, but there's just something. And we reference rentals based on their photos. That's the one with the sun clock, or that's the one with the something. It's the stuff in the photos. That's how we remember rentals. It's not the 3-bedroom and 2-bath in whatever place. Yeah, so that's
another very good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. This is so interesting.
Thank you for having us.
We will talk again soon.
Yes.
Well, I hope you could hear that okay. Did I mention that a branding guide comes with the course? It's a useful supplement to doing the homework activities. In fact, it's really incredibly valuable just alone. There's suggestions of amenities worth taking pictures of, staging techniques, and building your brand with a photo story. Just a really, really great concept. I didn't know when I interviewed Katie and Brian that I would be doing an infomercial for them, but I really do like their course a lot. I think there's a lot of value here. Please take a minute to go to our website at hostingyourhome.com and click on the variety of links we have there that direct you to Overlooked to Overbooked. When you're there, leave us a note. Let me know who you are and where you're from. And don't forget that we have a Facebook presence too. We upload the podcast on the Facebook page, but we have conversations in the Facebook group. So join the group. We would love to have you join us. Take care, and we'll see you soon.